Hi everyone, Reverend Dr. Katie here. This week we are doing a series on vibration, what it is, how to raise your vibration, and tools and tricks of the trade to keep your vibration up, but also really addressing things that I see people doing all the time that keep their vibration from being in a elevated state a lot of the time. In fact, a lot of the things people do constantly send their vibration into a yo-yo pattern or an up and down pattern rather than the gradual ascent or the really fast ascent and keeping it up there. The higher our vibration, the more in alignment we are with our purpose, with our higher selves, with God, with our relationship with Jesus Christ. All of that comes into play. And so having your raised vibration be a really core feature of who you are, and maybe maybe one of the goals that you want to get to in your own spiritual life, in your own spiritual walk, is really critical. One of the things that can wreck actually your vibration, the totality of who you are and what you put out there in the world. Remember, what you put out there is what you get back. That's exactly, it will mirror that exactly for you. And we've been talking about how to keep your core self in a high vibration. So, one of the things that can actually wreck vibration is spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is when we try to take shortcuts or we try to distract ourselves with something that maybe is a good spiritual practice, but we're doing it to avoid something else. So, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One example of this is, I'm at a low vibration, so I'm going to get a crystal that will help me. You get a crystal, you put it in your pocket, and then you kind of forget about it. And that's it. So you think that the crystal is the solution. The crystal is never the solution. The crystal is a tool, a powerful, energetic tool that can help with your vibration. But the crystal asks you to do some work with it. The crystal wants you to get to know it. The crystal is a creation of God. It's not a shortcut for your spiritual life, right? So sometimes people want to jump from another example. People want to you genuinely want to help other people. You want to offer them energy healing, but you want to go straight to offering energy healing without either receiving it or with learning about it. So you're like, no, I know I'm an energetic creature. I know that I have these gifts. Of course you do. You're a created being of God. Of course you have energy healing gifts. But I see people that like, well, no, I just want to go straight to offering that to people, but you're offering it at a really low vibration, and so you're offering them low vibration healing. So that's bypassing. That's a form of spiritual bypassing. So it's like trying to go from first grade to eighth grade, and you're not getting all the stuff in between that you really need to. And so it's trying to take shortcuts that feel like they're going to get you there a little quicker, but they don't get you there very solidly, and they don't get you there in a way that reaps spiritual maturity, right? That reaps spiritual growth in a sustained way. And so we can really build our house on a house of rock and not a house of sand that will be washed away. And so I am saying that spiritual bypassing will wreck your vibration because what's going to happen? I'm just going to use the crystal example. Okay, well, no, I have this crystal, so oh my gosh, life is perfect. I'm at a high vibration all the time. But you haven't done the interior work. You haven't examined your core beliefs. You haven't spent time in meditation. You haven't spent time in prayerful contemplation. You haven't developed your gifts. You haven't practiced them. You haven't been using energy to heal yourself. But you want to go out there and heal others and tell them all about crystals. Right. And so that's going to, you might have a little surge where, yeah, the crystals are really effective. Sure. I love them. They're all over my house. But you might have this period where they feel really effective. You're feeling more energy. But then when you go and actually try to implement it and help other people, you're like, actually, I'm not actually sure what I'm talking about here. Right. Because you bypassed a really important part of the self-examination of that interior journey. And if nothing else, Christ is always calling us to enter into that journey. And you know what? The good news is we always have Holy Spirit. We always have Christ with us to help us with that process. And Christ models that for us. Christ goes and spends time in the desert and prays. Christ spends time getting to know people and perfecting healing and energy work in order to be able to offer it to others. Right? So we have that model and that example for us. And so what does this do to your vibration? Well, immediately you're like, oh my gosh, I figured everything out. And it feels like it spikes. But then when you realize you don't have it figured out and that you took a bunch of shortcuts and your interior self actually hasn't done the growth and expansion that it needs, then your vibration plummets again. And you're in this yo-yo scenario that we talked about in the previous video yesterday. So you might want to go back and check that out if you haven't seen it already. And so this kind of yo-yo feeling is a product, can be a product of spiritual bypassing. Okay, so what's the solution? What's the way to get and maintain a high vibration without the spiritual bypassing? So I am saying bypassing doesn't work and it's unhelpful and it wrecks your vibration. That doesn't mean that the authentic journey that you're being called to take has to be slow. It can, in fact, be very efficient, but you need to build on particular steps in order to get to where you want to go. And so when we do that, when we build one step, the foundation, when we build our foundation and then really build our expertise and our experience and practicing energy on others and being the recipient of other energy to be able to give feedback. When we do that, that can actually be very efficient. And in fact, it's much more efficient than just grabbing tools and trying to put those in your arsenal without having any idea how the energy around them works, and thinking that the tool will solve all the problems of your life when in fact they never do. In fact, the tools will create more problems in your life if you don't know how to use them, if you're not at high vibration. If you're trying to use crystals or cards or pendulum or going to psychics or doing anything like that, and you're at such a low vibration, when you're trying to use those, you're going to create more low vibration in the world. You have to enter into all of that from a place of as high vibration as you can possibly be at that moment. Get to know those tools, and you're using those tools to help raise your vibration. Otherwise, you're bypassing, and that wrecks your vibration. But when we build solidly with a solid foundation and put one building block on top of the other, it's actually very efficient, and it's way more efficient than the bypass crash. Reach for something else, bypass, crash, reach for the something else. Right? So that is the surest way. So if you remember when you were in school, if you learned how to do something the incorrect way, or maybe you learned a musical instrument and you learned it the incorrect way with poor technique, or you didn't have the solid foundation, remember how much you had to unlearn to go back and relearn it? We want to avoid that. So the bypassing, if you find yourself thinking, oh, I could really use some more spiritual help on my journey, and you just reach for tools, or you have someone else try to do the work for you, and you're not willing to do that self-exploration, the self-examination, or you always have a reason why you can't do it. You're going to wait until this, you're going to wait until that, you're going to wait until this. You're not actually taking responsibility for your spiritual journey. So when you show up for your spiritual journey, it will show up for you. When you take responsibility for your spiritual journey, it will meet you where you are, and then you start to build your vibration without any bypassing. All right, so I hope that that is helpful. I hope that this is making sense. If you realize you are someone who's been bypassing, using spiritual bypassing, it may be really unconsciously, like you haven't been doing that on purpose, but maybe you're having an aha right now, like, oh my gosh, I have been doing that, and it is wrecking my vibration, and I always feel like I'm in the same place. Like every year, if you find yourself asking the same question about your spiritual life year after year, after year after year, or even week after week after week, but it's not changing, it's not growing, it's not expanding, then that might mean that you're bypassing, that's lowering your vibration, and you're in this constant loop that you don't want to be in, and you can't help yourself or help others while you're in that loop. So you need some secure building blocks to really build a secure foundation, and then build that up so that you can get out there and live your purpose and do it in the highest vibration way, with no bypassing. Because once you don't bypass and you build efficiently, you never have to bypass again. So it's actually a beautiful side effect of taking the inner journey. Yeah. So if that authentic inner journey feels like that's the right fit for you right now, then I would love to hear from you. Just feel free to reach out anytime. You can send me a private message. Let me know what your questions are in the comments and chats below, and I will talk to you soon.